Shut up, man. Well, good evening, family. I welcome you to the conversation tonight. And thank you so very much for tuning in on Bold Moves Radio and also on my Facebook page, also on my, what is that? My YouTube page. Thank you so very much. On my YouTube, we're also on LinkedIn, and I just want to welcome you all, family, and thank you so very much for tuning in tonight because on the conversation, we are going to be handling one of the very sensitive topics or subjects that concerns us all as a people. We just from celebrating Women's Month, and we thank God for the women of 1956 who took it to the streets defiantly, from different races and made sure that they are making a mark in the fight against the regime of the time. And we salute them. And of course, this is the contribution of women that continues to make our nation and make the world a better place. I can imagine a world without women. Men is going to be something else. Even God said it is not good for a man to be alone. And guess what? For a man to have a companion, God brought a woman. And ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you tonight on Bold Moves Radio, on my Facebook page, on YouTube and LinkedIn. And thank you so very much also for my friends and all participants on the Zoom. Thank you so very much. This evening, family, like I said, we just from celebrating Women's Month, but I have a concern, and the concern is every time we celebrate Women's Month, it's like a declaration for women's slaughter, and the violence against women is just scary. What happens to our children, what happens to our daughters, what happens to our wives, what happens to our mothers and our sisters is not bearable at all. And that is why even after the Women's Month, I felt it is important for us to sit back and reflect and make sure that we look at exactly what is going on wrong or what is happening that we could be so violent, that we could be so rude. What happened in this Women's Month? Something as if somebody said, you know what, I'm going to do it, and they are going to be shocked. Where one of our daughters, just about to graduate in a law degree, the next thing she's murdered, sliced, and carried in papers, bags, and everything. That is really heartbreaking. That is really heart-tearing. And I feel it's important because tonight, as a man or as a male man, I sit here because I want us to reflect. I want us to look at exactly what does Women's Month mean to us as society, mean to us specifically as men and as boys. That is why this evening I have my honored guest, and that is none other but Dr. Alex Molefe. Dr. Alex Molefe, he holds a PhD in industrial psychology. Again, he is a senior lecturer and a researcher in Northwest University. He's also a pastor of Faith Fellowship Church in Mahikeng, and he's a married man with 3 children. And I just want to thank God that Dr. Molefe gave us this time to share with us, to bring some light, and to also say to us as men, this is not right. And where exactly did things go wrong? But tonight, I have that privilege of having Dr. Alex Molefe, who is a industrial psychologist and who is going to be taking us through, who's going to be helping us to understand some of the things. And with him, I have also, in fact, Dr. Molefe as a psychologist, I call them mental health specialists because I also have a psychiatrist. I also have a doctor um, in social work, and I also have a nurse, and I also have a politician that are going to be helping us as we go through this program tonight. So, family, thank you so very much, and welcome to you all. Allow me to take this time and say, Dr. Molefe, thank you so very much for making yourself available and for coming through. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Pastor. Good evening to everybody.
Hi, Doctor. Are you able to hear me, Doc?
Yes, good evening, Pastor, and good evening to everybody.
Thank you so very much, Doc. Thanks for coming through. We really appreciate your time in your hectic schedule for coming through and be with us on this program where we are talking about some of the very sensitive things. Doc, it's quite some years now after the march of the 1956 women who defiantly took it to the street, boldly so, peacefully so, and contributed in the democracy that we enjoy today. But every time we think and commemorate those great women, it is characterized with all sorts of horror and violence against women. Doc, I brought you into the program tonight to help us. And I would love to say to you, Doc, what has gone wrong? What is it that has gone wrong? And where does it come from? Psychologically, how do you take us through? How do you get us to even understand ourselves? Because I must sit here this evening, Doc, as a pastor, and you also as a pastor, we know that perpetrators of this violence at the most is us as men, and that is so concerning because we then have hashtags like hashtag men are trash, hashtag all these things because women are tired, women are violated, women are hurt in the hands of people who love them, in the hands of people whom they expected to be protected, to be loved, and all that. Doc, if you could give us your opening statement and get us to understand as we kickstart this show tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor. I think remember that gender-based violence is our wicked social problem. And one of the definitions that they give it to it, they say is either difficult or impossible to solve because of its prevalence and its cost and harm and complicated solutions that we have to come up with. Now, from my perspective, I think the problem that exacerbates this problem is the way we handle it. And remember that we are psychological beings. So the way we pass the message, it can either solve problems or it can either make problem worse. So it is very, very important the way we communicate. We need to do some serious introspection when we communicate violence. I'll give you an example. There was some years ago when the Minister of Police released statistics of crime. And when he was releasing them, he prided himself and the police to say they are doing a good job. And in that particular month, crime skyrocketed because the message, the way it was delivered, it was wrong. It was as if now criminals, I don't know, we have to be extra careful in terms of the way we communicate messages. Remember that in communication, it depends on how you communicate. That message can,
Doc,
it can encourage people to discuss. Yes.
I don't know, but your sound goes up and down, and you fade, and we cannot hear you clearly. Yes, if maybe you can be. Yes.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying, as psychological beings, it is very, very important in terms of how do we communicate the message, and then so that
Doc,
we deal with
Doc,
the issue
Doc,
yeah.
we hardly hear you. I don't know what is happening. We hardly
Oh.
hear you. Yeah, it's like when you're looking much this side, when you're looking much, Doc, when you're looking much, yeah, when you much on my left, it's like that's where the mic is. It picks you better.
Is it better?
Yeah, it sounds better now.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying, Pastor, the problem is the way we communicate messages during the month of August. It is not, one cannot give a solution, outright solution, but I think we need to do some serious introspection in terms of how do we communicate. What is the best thing way before the month of August? What is the best way of communicating these messages so that it can encourage people not to be involved in this violence? Yeah, and it is possible that we can live without violence. I looked at a survey of about 157 countries, and I looked at your top 10 best countries where there is no, there is less violence. The number one will be Sweden. Number two will be Denmark.
Okay, Doc. Okay, Doc. Just hold it. Desmond, you have muted Dr. Molefe. And brothers, if you could quickly help us, what might be the cause of his volume going up and down and almost not audible?
Yeah. I was thinking if Dr. Molefe could, if he has an alternative network, he could maybe switch to that network, because the one that he's using, it keeps cutting, especially when it. And I'll ask him to unmute himself, because I have muted him by mistake there.
Listen, Des, I don't think it's the network.
Yeah,
I think it's related to the mic, because it does not cut, but it comes in, but it's still clean. Is it can earphones or something like that help, or what do you think?
Okay, we can try to do it with the headphones, but if the issue continues,
let's see where they are now, and then let's just check. I would love to say to our guests, our audience, please pardon us. We're still just trying to get a good position for Dr. Molefe or for audio. Doc, let's hear if we can find Joy here. Let's just check it. You can unmute your mic.
I've just changed position. I don't know whether I'm better.
Okay, just speak a little bit, Doc. Let me hear.
I'm saying I've just changed my position. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's still there. It's still there. Did you hear that, Desmond?
Yeah, no, I heard it.
It goes down and up, down and up. So I don't think it's network. I don't think it's network. It might be. Doc, do you have earphones that the earphones for the phone itself, which has a mic?
No. Let me try to connect with my phone and see what will happen.
Yeah. Let's try with the phone. I think there's something with the mic of the laptop. Okay.
Okay. How's the phone?
Yeah, is that the phone mic?
Yes.
Yeah, just talk a little bit. Let me hear.
Ask him to mute the other one so that we can be able to know which one it is. Ask him to mute the one of the laptop, and then let's listen to the one of the cell phone.
Doc?
Hello.
Okay,
Yes.
Mute the one on the laptop so that we hear the one on the phone how it is. Okay.
Is it okay?
Yeah, good.
You sound very clear, Doc. You sound very clear.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now let's just position it in such a way that we are able to see you, and let's work with this one. I think this one will give us some clear sound.
Okay. So can you see me?
Not okay. Desmond, where's Doc?
Yeah, you see him in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, there he is. I can see you now. Is it possible to make this the font to be at landscape, Doc?
Like this?
Possible? Yeah, but
Okay.
yeah, like that. Then it's wider. Thanks very much.
Okay. All right.
And then you can just shift a little bit to my right so that you are in the center of the screen.
Okay.
Ah, that's great, Doc. That will be good.
All right.
Sorry, Doc, for that. You know, you were still saying something about sometimes back when the Minister of Police communicated the message, boasting about how they're dealing with crime, but then the whole thing changed. The crime skyrocketed, and you said the way we communicate has got either a negative or a positive impact.
Or a positive impact. So I wish that, in the past, what we used to do is that people who will go to the media will be well trained in terms of how they communicate,
Yes.
how they, they influence people, because communication, media is supposed to influence people positively.
Yes.
So if we use media, we have to be extra careful. It's so sad that today, with social media, people say whatever that they want to say in social media. But over and above that, then I think the challenge lies with us in terms of how we communicate positive message, we encourage in churches, in society. How do we encourage people really to communicate positively? Because I think that's where the challenge is.
Like you said, maybe prior the August, the Women's Month celebration, you were still taking us through that. Maybe we should be looking at something before even the August month.
We must have a lifestyle, Pastor, to say this is the way we live. We're going to encourage men, and we don't only wait for August or 16 days. It becomes a lifestyle. We teach men how to live with women. We teach men, young ones, old ones, all of us. We communicate positive messages amongst ourselves, to make sure that we don't have this scourge of violence, because always it becomes negative even to those who are living right with women. And then, so therefore, it is very, very important that we communicate a positive message long before August 16. We celebrate our women on a daily basis, not on a particular month.
Very true. You were still giving us statistics looking at different countries, and it did not come out clear because of the audio. If you could go back to those statistics.
Yeah, I was saying, is it possible for us really to live a free, violent society? Yes, it is. If you look at the first country that is number one in terms of less violence against women is Sweden. And then you have number 2 is Denmark. And number 3 is Norway. Number 4 is Canada. Netherlands is number 5. Finland is number 6. Switzerland is number 7. And then you have New Zealand as number 8. Number 9 is Germany. And number 10 is Australia. Those are your top 10 countries where you have less violence. And what is the common denominator amongst all these countries? I looked at their GDP. It is lack of poverty. And so the economy in those countries is good. So So therefore, it shows you that, again, poverty is a contributing factor in terms of this violence against women. So those are the statistics that, you know, that those countries, they're dealing with poverty, they're making sure that, remember that when we started, we said we don't have a solution that can fit everything. We have to look at
it's all.
Yeah, we have to look at different aspects. We have to make sure that I've lost the video. I have to look at what is really happening. Yes, as I communicate, I'll try to fix this thing.
No problem.
Yeah, so those are the challenges that we have, Pastor, in terms of what we having here.
Yes, that's very. I think that's a very important observation, and even in fact comparison, because if the top 10 countries that are less in violence against women, if they be countries that whose GDP is okay, then truly poverty will be a negative contributing factor. Doc, while you're sorting out the settings, and I would even say when you sit, you must also sit more to your left, which is my right, so that you are in the center of the screen. Yes, so that you're able to see you. And if the phone can be a little bit further, like that, so that we are able to see you clearly. I would love to take a contribution by the MEC for Social Development in Limpopo Province, and let's hear what she has to say, and maybe we'll reflect on that even as we continue. Let's hear what she's got to say.
Good evening to Pastor Strike, and good evening to Dr. Alex Molefe, and to our viewers that are tuned in tonight. My name is Nkakareng Rakhwali, the MEC responsible for the Department of Social Development in Limpopo. Indeed, we have come to the end of the actual month in which we celebrate women. It is the month in which we reflect on our successes and failures to advance women's rights and representation as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We know that we celebrate this month because of the 9th of August 1956, thousands of resilient women from all walks of life gathered to peacefully declare war on the unjust and inhumane past law systems and apartheid as the whole. Though South Africans bore the brunt of injustices in those days, it is these women who felt the most pain and sufferings. Our democracy brought about a new freedom for South African women: freedom of movement, freedom to participate in the economy and decision-making, political roles, as well as 50% representation in key government positions. However, Pastor, let me indicate that the freedom of women has been stripped away by a few evil and a new challenge that has taken shape in the form of violence against women and children, or gender-based violence and femicide, as we acknowledge that violence against our male counterparts, perpetrated women, also exist. We have seen gender-based violence escalating and reaching critical proportions in the past 2 to 3 years. Rape and murder became so rampant that President Cyril Ramaphosa dubbed it the second pandemic to COVID-19. It is especially during hard lockdown that women suffered domestic abuse, as they were basically forced to be home with their abusers, and our social workers had to intervene time and again. And we also found that the trauma of job losses and a quelled economy contributed for frustrations, which ultimately led to individuals taking out their angers on their families. And I must indicate that for rape, there can never be an excuse. The rape of a little children remains one of the most heinous crimes, and this horrific deep strips women of their very being and dignity. We as women are even scared to walk around after dark. What have the women of 1956 and beyond achieved if women are basically in chains against today in this question? Something that we can also unfortunately ignore, Pastor, that which I think I used to talk about when I have an opportunity to talk to our cultural leaders or traditional leaders, is that we observe that culture continues to play the role in how women and girls are treated. The traditional roles in the home are also a challenge, that which women earn a living and sometimes are the breadwinners, but that to some men becomes a challenge, and therefore they become perpetrators of gender-based violence. And our leader, and our clear message, is therefore that men must at all costs understand that women have a place in the home, but the place is not as a punching bag or a rag that can be kicked out at any time. And on the contrary, you strike a woman, you strike a rock. Women are mothers, nurses, educators, and master chefs in their own homes. And they need to be supported and treated with respect as they fulfill this role. The man remains the head of the household, but the woman surely is the neck. But when we say the man remains the head, does not mean that he must continuously abuse the woman and the child in the household just because he felt he's the head and nobody can say anything. Because more often than not, when we start to follow up on these cases of gender-based violence, we realize that there are men who are still threatened by the fact that their women are becoming more successful, and that on its own, men just feel they are going to be undermined by their wives, and that on its own started to create a space or environment for gender-based violence in their households. One thing that one must indicate is that the cycle of abuse, when boy children observe their fathers abusing and raping women, also seem to repeat when those very boys then also make themselves guilty of violence against women, because as they continuously watch at home the father beating the mother or the opposite, it becomes a challenge on its own. It is never too late. We want women and children to break the silence and speak to someone they trust. Teachers and social workers, the police and healthcare workers will know how to handle this situation because they are trained in that field. We just need to encourage the victims to speak out, and so that we can bring all perpetrators of gender-based violence to book in the strongest terms. We need our country and our people to heal in the midst of devastating pandemic. And therefore, we need to support each and every initiative brought about by government and non-profit organizations to ensure that our people are safe and protected. Those are some of the messages of hope that ultimately root out the evil of gender-based violence and femicide. Mutual respect, breaking the silence, and becoming involved in the solution rather than the problem. And I want to take this opportunity and thank you so much, Pastor Strike, and thank you for inviting our doctor to come and talk about this problematic topic. And I'm saying this because it gives us courage as government to see that it's men who are starting to stand up and talk about gender-based violence. And I must say that the fact that the program is led by a man who happened to be pastor and want to talk about this gender-based violence perhaps will give hope to men that let's start to talk about this issue, and let's find ourselves playing a critical role in making sure that we stop gender-based violence. It's becoming more problematic, it's growing on a daily basis, and a woman feels they're not safe in their own country and in their own places and even in their own homes. Let me take this opportunity and thank you so much, Pastor Strike, for the opportunity that you've given me. And I wish all the women, as we have closed the month, that the protection of women is 365 days. It's not only on the month of the women. I take this opportunity to thank you so much.
Okay. Doc, with you can unmute yourself, Doc. You can just unmute yourself.
Okay. Thanks, Pastor.
Doc, having heard what the MEC for Social Development has said, and she also cited the issue of culture also coming to play. What do you make of her talk, Doc?
Yeah, I think we there are certain things that we ignored in terms of after 1994 when we got our liberation. And remember that this liberation was an abrupt change. It was not a small changes happening. It was an abrupt change. Now, one of the things is that we didn't deal with issues of culture, and those issues of culture are also a problem. Even religious issues are a problem in terms of increasing this violence. The certain cultures will be emphasizing that I'm the head of the family. I'm not listening to a woman. I don't take any advice from a woman. Those things are still persistent. And shockingly, when I teach in class, sometimes I talk to issues that roles have changed. If we are knocking off from work as a man and a wife, if one is washing dishes, one must prepare a meal. One must be able to wash kids and all those things. Shockingly, you will find young men who are opposed to that. Because normally I even give them an example that you might find that your wife has been working harder than you during the day. So she needs some rest, and you must be able to help in the house, because we are all working. Gone are the days where women will be remaining at home and then I'll be going to work. So understandably, I will come because she was at home the whole day. Then she will prepare a meal for me. But coming both of us coming from work, we help each other. We take turns in taking care of our kids if we have small kids in our home. But shockingly, you will find young men, and it is a cultural issue. The young men opposing that idea that, as a man, you can't change the nappy of your own child. These are some of the things that I think we need to deal with our cultural leaders, churches, and see if we cannot, try to educate men in this particular area. Because even our laws have changed. In terms of the laws, I have the right to have a custody of a child in terms of a divorce. How am I going to have a custody if I cannot? If my wife passes on and we have a small child, how am I going to take care of that child if I cannot? With the sketch of what is happening today, your COVID, your HIV, families are diminishing. So it is very, very important that we understand that roles have changed. Men must take responsibility. Gone are the days where you are not even going to wash your dishes in the house. So this is very, very important. That and again, with respect, we have to be positive that opportunities are happening to us all these days. If my wife has an opportunity to become a CEO, why should I be afraid to encourage her to become a CEO? And so just with the fear that, no, if she's earning more money, I'm earning less, I would be less of a man. So these are some of the things that we need to be careful with and educate men, young men, to say, let us appreciate each other. I have not read anywhere, as a Christian, I've not read anywhere in the Bible where it says one has to oppress a woman on the basis of income and all those things. So these are some of the challenges. These are some of misinterpretation that we bring into culture as well as into religion. So they need to be addressed. So the MEC is spot on to say this is a 365-day practice, not a practice of 1 day or of 31 days in August. So we must learn. Look, any psychologist will tell you that you think properly, you are okay if your mental health, if you don't have any violence, then your mental health will be okay. So it works to our benefit that we live at peace with our wives, with our women, so that our mental health will be healthy, so that we can live at peace. It also prolongs your life. Sicknesses, you won't get sickly because you are living a happy life. Laughing is important. It's a healing to your body. So there is no need for us to live in depression, fighting each other, complaining about salaries, complaining about who's the head of the family. Look, if you are a confident man, you don't have to remind anybody that you are a head of the family. So it becomes automatic. You know that you are a head of a family. So you don't have to preach about it. And then, so you don't have to oppress people to demonstrate that you are the head of the family. And you live at peace. so that your kids can appreciate you, your wife can appreciate you. You'll be shocked in terms of how you'll enjoy your family.
Doc, that's very true. And like you gave an example that in class, while lecturing, you have young men who would really be opposed to helping their partners on those chores that in the past were said to be women's chores. And we know that going back in the days where men were the sole providers, women will be home, they will be taking care of all these chores. But since the wars where while men were out there, women were to go and work and make sure that they fend for the family and make sure that they are producing bullets and all that, so that the fight goes on and the man comes home and only to find the woman is working and she's doing even exactly what he was doing, which I think it's our problem. We did not maybe migrate from that mentality, but I'm just scared how it has been carried from generation to generation, because we don't expect our young men today to be saying such things. I mean, they are at varsity. That's an institution of higher learning. You know, growing up as a young man, I thought girls will not beat me in class. I thought that they should not beat me, but you know what? They beat me. So you get to understand, more especially when you go to school, you get to understand that, you know what? Women are also capable. They are able. They learn. They are smart. Sometimes they are smarter than you when it comes to some of the courses. But having such a mentality that no, women belongs to the kitchen. Even when we come from work, no matter how hectic it was, she must be in the kitchen. Even though maybe my work was not, even when I'm off, sometimes I wait for her and she comes back and I expect her to prepare food. Doc, my question is, where do we start? Because honestly, we thought maybe the next generation, our children, will understand and will do things differently. But it's like they really follow after our footsteps. Where do we start, redressing this injustice, this wrong, this mentality? Where do we start?
Yeah, I think the general problem that we have, Pastor, is that sometimes we look at the fruits of what is happening. Maybe the basic would be to understand where does this violence come from. It comes from 4 areas. Number one, it starts with an individual. So if an individual has the history of maltreatment and violence, that person is going to likely be violent as well. If an individual has the history of drug and alcohol misuse by parents and relatives and all those things, that person has the likelihood of being violent. If this person has been socially isolated, remember that I don't know whether it's still happening. During our times as young people, you will be socially isolated because maybe you are fat, others are slender. So therefore, you will get an isolation that you are fat. If you are darker than other guys, then they will call you dark person, and then you get isolated. So those things breed violence. If you are young and you are living among the elder ones, they can suppress you in terms of because of your age, and then you end up as an individual feeling isolated, and it breeds violence as well. So then it comes to unemployment. If you are unemployed and others are employed, that can breed violence as an individual. So as an individual, we need to deal with all professionals in terms of if there is a history of maltreatment, social workers must not get in simply because now there is a problem. They should be able to identify a problem. I don't know, maybe in churches we've got programs where we deal with these things. We don't wait for the fruits. We say, okay, we have people who have had this particular problems in the past. This person, this individual is here in church, he loves the Lord, but from the background where he's coming from, there is an abuse of alcohol. This can breed violence in future, even though this person, we must not spiritualize it. Even though this person is here, loves the Lord, this person has been isolated socially. How do we embrace? How do we show this person that he can be loved? You know, those are some of the things where we start. We have to get to identify the root cause so that we can deal with the problem. Now, moving from an individual and we come to relationships.
Oh, yes.
Now, you will find that there is separation between families, infightings, and all those things. Those fights can cause a person to be violent, because you'll find that this particular family is isolated because maybe they don't have. Remember that we looked at the GDP of those countries, why they don't have violence. Now you find that because I come from a poor background, other members of the family will isolate you and put you aside as then you don't have a relationship because they can't benefit anything from you. So that breeds violence as well. And then even in terms of your common law, the laws that we implement, these are not written laws. We come up with laws that are not written. Like, for instance, I normally make this typical example, Pastor, that I have never ever put a law in my house to say my wife must be home at 6 o'clock and kids. It's a common law. It's not written, because what it means is that I must come early home to come and monitor this law that I've put in place. So I'm giving myself an extra job of monitoring things that are not important. So these laws that we put, restrictions that we put, are the ones who are breeding violence, because sometimes they are not even understandable. And because they are not understandable, I can't explain them. I use violence to enforce this particular law. So those are in terms of relationships, why we are experiencing this particular violence. The other, when we're moving away from individual and relationships, we come to community. Tolerance of violence. As a community, if we tolerate violence, it's a problem. As a young man, as I was growing up, I knew in the community that if you are a man and you are beating a wife, you will be isolated. You are not regarded as a good man. So therefore, community was not really tolerating the violence. So immediately when a community tolerates violence, that thing is going to cause a problem. It breeds violence. It becomes problematic. Now, from community again, if you look at the gender and social inequality, those social inequalities will also breed violence. So, like for instance, when you are looking at men and you take that men are superior, women are inferior. Who has decided that women should be inferior and men should be superior? Because if you read the Bible, it says God made him. He made a man and a woman, and so there is no one who's superior. Even though God talks about a man being the head, but it is not talking to superiority. So that inequality in society breeds violence, because immediately when I'm saying I'm superior, I have to demonstrate my superiority. And when I demonstrate the superiority, it ends up in violence. So this is where we start. We look at how, as a community, how do we educate the community to stop these things? And then if you see lack of support for women in society, sometimes other women are also exacerbating this thing. Like, for instance, I'll be getting married and other women will want my wife to be a servant in my house. So that is a community. Community influences the way we also treat our wives. And then you get influenced. And then the high levels of unemployment. Because immediately when you have high levels of unemployment, there is unnecessary competition amongst ourselves these days.
Oh, yes.
And then we start competing and we start looking down on each other on the basis of my employment status. So as communities, these are some of the things that we need to look at. It is not by choice that you can't find employment. It is economic situations that are causing these things. And then as society at large, the last part of why we having violence. Social and cultural norms that diminish the status of women and children. If you look at society as large, if this whole society, in certain societies, children are disregarded. You can toss them around, you can beat them, you can do whatever. So those things, immediately when society start doing that, then it creates and it beats. Remember, this child that is being ill-treated, this woman that is being ill-treated, also is thinking of how to retaliate, how to defend myself. And as you defend, that's why you find kids who are violent even to their parents, who are violent to their grandparents, because it is us, society, who has influenced this particular violence. Then society, again, we look at the policies, poor living conditions, socio-economic issues, and then their government must play a major role as well in terms of how do they deal with this particular problems. And then the lack of adequate legislation. I was in Tanzania. In Tanzania, if you rape, a minimum sentence, some years when I was there, a minimum sentence was 40 years. So that came as deterrent to rape in Tanzania. Again, what kind of, as government again has to make sure that it doesn't also encourage this thing. What kind, if you can't take me when I'm poor and I'm staying in a rural area, I get imprisoned and I start eating like I'm in a 5-star hotel. I'm not saying people must not eat nutritious food, but also it breeds violence, because a person will come out. Recently, in our area, there is a guy who was released from prison. He went out and at a go killed 8 women at a go.
What?
Simply because he wants to go back to prison again. So these are some of the challenges that we are facing, to say the solution. Remember when we started, Pastor, I said the solution is not easy.
Yes.
We have to treat each case as it comes and see this is the problem, and then how we address this particular problem. This is the problem. How do we address this particular problem? But all these problems must be identified holistically, from individual point of view, from relationship point of view, from community point of view, and from society point of view. So when we can be able to identify, remember, again, I think in terms of research, we have to be careful, because research, we identify a problem and we set up objectives, and then we don't go beyond the objectives when there are other things on the side that really causes, and then we concentrate on research findings, because those are the things, the objectives that we are looking for. But there are other things that we can write and encourage people and teach and make sure that we make them on reachable platforms, like the platform we are using right now to talk to communities first. So I think this is where we can start. We can make sure that we address the root cause of the problem, not the fruits. Let us identify the root cause. And then he said the root cause of this particular fruit is 1, 2, 3, 4. And we deal with the roots. When we can take out the roots, then
we have dealt with it. You know, Doc, that's very true. Shaking off the flowers and hoping that the tree, next time it will bear different fruits, it will not help a thing. But it's so scary, especially when we look at how things are, and also the issues or the contributors into violent behavior, and women becoming the victims in the process. And I just want to take this time and appreciate our friends on Facebook, and also you on YouTube, and also our listeners on Bold Moves Radio, and you, our friends right here on YouTube. I see Mama Kensani Ngobeni saying, gender stereotypes, inferiority complex, culture and tradition contribute to gender-based violence in many families. Women stay in an abusive relationship due to the fact that if they divorce, the kids might suffer the best thing for us is to stay until we are killed. And this is a reality. And then somebody, Christopher Balo, is saying symptoms of anger is violence. But you know, Doc, this concerns me. I hear you when you say, look, we should be able to identify every case and be able to deal with it according to its merit. But another thing that I'm seeing, which it's very concerning, is, you know, this thing just escalates. It goes on. And when we look at platforms where we try and address, there are platforms like church, but church is not the best vehicle for our nation or for our government because of reasons beyond our understanding. For an example, we used to have religious education in schools. We used to have just simple morning devotions, which somehow revives a child's conscience. But because of reasons known to our leaders or to our government, all that we kicked it out. And we have got violence even in primary schools. We have got violence in high schools. Children are so violent. And of course, the argument is, no, this violence is not here. It did not start here at school. It started at home. And that is true. But what then do we do? Do we let those children who are coming from violent homes just continue like that because, of course, it comes from home? Or like it was in the past, are we doing something? Because when we talk to somebody's conscience, you really awaken something in them. And as the church, I know as the church, we have programs. We have programs working on these things. Yes, we are not winning 100% because some of the perpetrators of abuse, they are from the church. Yes, because they come from a background which has made them violent as individuals, violent from families, some violent even from communities. You know, I always had a concern looking at our behavior when we look at accidents. I've seen when there is an accident, you will see even decent people driving big cars. If there's an accident of a truck, they will start loading the things that are in that truck, not helping the people, but loading things. And I was very concerned, even before the looting, and I said, we are becoming a very dangerous society. We're showing our children, we're showing everybody that, you know what, when something goes wrong with somebody, it's your opportunity to eat. It's your opportunity to loot from them. And all these things, I'm asking myself, where are we headed to as a people? And like you say, Doc, we have to really have researches. We have to look at these things. One other thing that also concerns me, because academics are doing their best in researches, but many a time, it's like there is no way or there's no willingness either by a particular department in government, because government is the bigger role player. You know, sometimes you find that with this research that would be very useful for this particular department, but it's looked at and that's it. And we go political about everything, even where we have to really go deep into detail according to the research that was made and be able to use it while it's still relevant, because things change. The next thing we might have, you know, it's like researches are made, recommendations are made, but it is left there. And it's not practiced, or it is not put to practical. And the next thing, we've got another challenge. So I'm thinking, and sometimes I also plead with you as academics to say, can we maybe have a movement of some kind of academics who are able to say, good people, we are not politicians, we are academics, we are researchers. For us to go forward, please give us an ear. In this matter, this is the research, these are the findings, these are the recommendations, and have maybe government coming to a position or to a state where they are able to take these recommendations, they come to a place where the department is able to take these recommendations, be it education, be it social development, be it any other department. I'm just crying aloud that would not that at least contribute in us working toward finding solutions for our problems as humanity?
Yeah, look, Pastor, the last point in terms of research, you are encouraging me, because currently I'm trying to set up a process where I'm saying we must have action research. After researching, let us go and test findings and implement these particular findings, and then perfect those findings until we have a perfect solution. It must not be just a research. These are findings. I don't test them further. So I must be able to test those findings further and check whether they can be perfected and implement our findings so that there can be a change. And surprisingly, government is losing a lot of money in terms of research, even though we are not implementing those findings. If you take a country like Canada, 80% of research that is done in Canada is done amongst communities, solving communities, investigating community problems, and those findings are implemented. Where is Canada now? I've been indicating that is among the best top 10 countries where there is no violence. And then you look at the economic situation in Canada. The economic situation is one of the best. They don't have resources like we have. I mean, we've got diamond, platinum. They don't have those things. So we shouldn't be talking about poverty in South Africa because we've got all these minerals. So it is because we don't test our findings and implement and take it further and to make sure that we make things perfect. So I think I agree with you 100% that it is time that universities and academics, including society, we come together and say, these are the findings. Can we implement them and check whether they are true? If they are not, what corrective measures can we take and improve our societies? And then the other important thing that you mentioned there, Pastor, it is religion. If you look at South Africa statistically, 81% of South Africans are Christians. And if you go to far away, not far away from where I'm staying, there is a Muslim school. They practice their religion. They pray.
Yes.
Have a particular time where their kids, they come and they pray and they practice religion. Now, we cannot be Christians and we don't even in the morning in our schools have a Lord's Prayer. Just a Lord's Prayer, let alone
just a Lord's Prayer.
Just a Lord's Prayer. So this is where one of the things that helps us to, a religion is a conscience, used properly, is a conscience to people to say, this is how I should live. My life, I should live a better life, So it cannot be right that, we are forbidding people to pray in school and we are accommodating religions that are not there. And then even when you go to that school that I've been given an example of, they also have Christians there. They allow them that in your time, go to your corner, and then do your thing, and then we'll also do our thing.
Yes.
So in all these schools, we can also say, if you are not a Christian, go to your corner, do your thing. We will do our thing here.
Yes.
That thing instills certain values, norms in society, and it reduces violence amongst people, whether we like it or not.
Very true.
Now, look, Pastor, the other thing that brings a problem today, you can go ask any psychologist, be it a clinical psychologist, be whatever psychologist. Punishment is part of shaping a behavior.
Yes.
If we don't have any form of punishment, there is no way that we will get our kids right in schools.
Yes, true.
Yes, we have removed corporal punishment. There are my son went to a school in Bloemfontein. No corporal punishment, but there was punishment, and he was well behaved, well disciplined.
Yes.
It does not mean because you have taken away corporal punishment, you cannot have a particular punishment where a kid can behave well.
Yes.
There are schools that don't have corporal punishment, but they still have a form of punishment, and kids are behaving well. So there is no way that we can have a society. Otherwise, why take people to prison if we don't want punishment?
Why? Yes, why?
Why? So we have to have a form of punishment, one or the other. For society, punishment is part of shaping our behavior. If we want this thing, and the other thing is that The other thing that we have to be careful with is that with this discipline is that as we were growing up, any elderly person was your elder.
Yeah, was
You'll
your
be
elder.
able to remind you in the street and say, this is wrong.
Yes.
And then
you take it.
earlier on you mentioned that this thing starts at home. If as parents we can learn to say, any elderly person can reprimand you, my child, we'll be able to get society right. Remember, we spoke about societal problems.
Yes.
We'll be able to get society right because you'll be able to say, my son, this is wrong. Not beating up a child. My son, this is wrong. And then the son will know that my father at home, my mother at home will also understand that I have done a wrong thing.
Yes.
So
yes.
I think again, it boils back. It is an individual, it is relationships, it is community. We need to tackle these things head on as society, as communities, as individuals, and amend our relationships.
Doc, you're very right. And like the MEC said, that is a 365-day project. It's not going to just be during awareness, 16 days of activism against violence or violence against women and children, or Women's Month. This is something that we have to really work on. And I am happy that through this conversation, I believe something is forming, something's coming up. But let us hear one of the mental health specialists, and that is Professor Dr. Monica Ndala, and hear what she has to say. And let us listen to her, Doc, and see what we glean out of that, and what we can comment about her talk.
Greetings, Pastor Strike, and thank you for this opportunity. I would also want to greet all the listeners tonight. This issue of gender-based violence, it is really touching my heart, and I feel that it is women who, like the women of 1956, the women of 2021, we must do something so that children of the future will be able to also celebrate, apart from celebrating women of 1956, they would also celebrate women of 2021. I think we have to take this challenge and handle it ourselves as women, because these atrocities will continue if we remain silent. There is a saying which says, evil things continue to happen not because of the bad people, but because of the silence of the good people. I'm calling upon all women to actually take this matter of gender-based violence seriously and do something about it. Mentally, I think we need to know that the boy child is not being trained as much as the girl child is trained. If we use Proverbs 31, verse 1 to 9, to train all our boy children from a very young age, they will know how to treat women. Because I think the curriculum for training of children, we find it in the manual of life, what I call the basic instructions before leaving earth, BIBLE, the manual of life. And that portion I've mentioned of Proverbs 31, verse 1 to 9, it is the curriculum for training of the boy child. Because every man who is committing these atrocities towards women and girl children was once a boy, was once somebody's small boy. And we probably are missing it there, because we say in development, the first 7 years of a child are very, very critical in the development of a child, whether it's a girl child or it's a boy child. There are many theories about what makes batterers abuse those closest to them. There's a theory that it's criminals who consciously commit crimes to achieve their dominance, and they believe the dominance which actually they believe they're entitled to. Another theory is abuse is a product of actually deep psychological and developmental scars that could have happened when the person was growing up. That's why I was emphasizing us women taking this matter and training up these boy children who will eventually become boyfriends to some daughters and husbands to some daughters. So deep psychological and developmental scars can lead some to be batterers. Domestic abusers generally are controlling, they are manipulative, and they believe that men have a preordained right to be in charge of all aspects of a relationship. And yet, the word of God tells us that when God said, let us make men in Genesis 1, verse 26 to 28, let us make men in our image and in our likeness. Male and female, we created them. We are equal before God. We are just the Spirit of God placed in different containers. Women being in a fragile container, whilst men, the Spirit of God being placed in a main masculine container. They often see also themselves, though, as victims, and they can even say, see what you have made me do. There are certain mate retention behaviors some of these men do, and they use violence as a tool to keep their intimate partner from leaving the relationship, especially when they feel that the relationship, the lady wants to end the relationship. They can use violence to as a mate retention behavior. And also abuse being the main issue is also of control. It makes them feel more powerful. There are also some personality disorders which we need to rule out, like antisocial personality disorders, borderline personality disorders, and many other personality disorders. Also the disease called depression. It can lead to homicide and even suicide. Others, after killing a lady, they can then commit suicide. It is a symptom that maybe that person was actually depressed. So issues of power and control are actually essential to an understanding of domestic violence. Sometimes it starts by just tension building up, which we call the build-up phase, then the standover phase, verbal attacks increase, explosion phase, a violent outbreak occurs, then there's a remorse phase, the abuser accuses the excuses actually their behavior. They can say, you shouldn't have pushed me, it was your fault, when they now want to look like they are the victim. Then there's the pursuit phase. They promise that they make promises that it will never happen again. I promise you this will never happen again. Then there can be a honeymoon phase, just a brief respite before the cycle actually begins again. And then they tell the lady, see, we don't have any problems. Do you know? Can you see that we don't have problems? But the cycle is likely to continue happening. We call that the abuse cycle. So when any lady recognizes that I'm in an abusive relationship and this cycle keeps going on and on, where somebody apologizes, shows remorse, and eventually actually make you feel bad and say, see what you have made me do, it will never happen again, I promise you. Take charge of that, of your own life and of your relationship, and seek counseling from mental health specialists. I am Dr. Ndala, a professor in Christian counseling. I'm also a psychiatrist, what they call psychiatrist, but I like calling myself a mental health specialist. So seek help from clinical psychologists, social workers, or from psychiatrists or mental health specialists like myself. God bless you all. Let us take this challenge and be like the women of 1956, but be labeled the women of 2021 did something. The women of 1956 didn't have social media. I don't know how they could gather 20,000 women of all races. So we can do it nowadays because there's WhatsApp, there's all the forms of social media anyway, which we can use to harness ourselves and take gender-based violence, taking the bull by the horns. Thank you very much. Let's continue debating and putting our heads together to fight this carnage. Thank you. God bless you.
Okay, thanks very much, Prof. And I see on Facebook, nearly one of our daughters here saying, it is not just violence. Communities that allow boy or men to stand around corners and whistle or catcall at women creates environment conducive for harassment, which later leads to objectification and violence. And Mama Kensani Ngobeni is saying, men enjoy seeing women suffer, even after separation. The moment you stand up and do things on your own, then jealousy comes in, and the next thing, you are killed. Gender equality is a monster that will remain with us, or gender inequality will remain a monster that will remain with us for years. And then Queen Z saying, unfortunately, we still have women who believe that if a man doesn't beat you, he doesn't love you. I must say this said justification of justification of abuse. And I really appreciate you, ladies, communicating or putting your comments on Facebook. We really appreciate that, because it also helps, because we have to get talking about these issues. We have to really debate it. We have to share it and see, and get mental health specialists like Dr. Alex Molefe with us today, to help us understand some of this behavior and get to where we can really deal with it from the roots and uproot it. I believe that it's possible to turn things around. As a nation, we're coming from the very dark history of apartheid, and here we are in democracy. So we can really beat this also, only if we join hands, only if we get to understand ourselves. Like Dr. Molefe says that unfortunately our democracy came abruptly. We did not really prepare. It's like, Doc, I'll even say, it's like the lifting up of corporal punishment. It just happened like that. Sometimes I must say, and without fear of contradiction, sometimes politicians get excited, like you said, with the police who now began to proclaim victory over crime, and the next thing, crime skyrocketed. But sometimes politicians take decisions out of excitement and wanting to score points, because how do you go to children and begin to liberate them without having to deal with parents? Corporate punishment was to be lifted, but it was supposed to have started with the educators, sat down, workshopped, telling them, guys, this is wrong, so that the change is gradual. Because when you disarm a parent and arm a child, you've caused problems. And the same, I think it goes to criminals. Criminals are like, they have more rights. Today they will tell you, no, when they arrest me, they beat me, they did me this, they did me. And we take that, our constitution is said to be one of the best in the world. But I'm just shocked that a best constitution continues to undermine the rights of our women. They are killed, they are victimized. Sometimes even when they report cases, that's why there are cases that will be withdrawn. Why? Because the way they are handled, they are meant to feel small, they are meant to feel dirty. Our justice system, the way you will be interrogated as a woman who's raped, it's like you are the perpetrator, meanwhile you are the victim. And all these things, I think these are some of the things that when Professor Ndala says, as women, you have to rise up, you have to do something. The 1956 women, they mobilized over 20,000 without social media. You can do best. I think legislature must be coiled, like the people living with disabilities. They will say nothing about us without us. I think nothing must be done about women without them. And this is very serious. I hear another woman is saying here, true, women should be treated equal politically, also economically and socially. And the feminists fought this fight since the 1800s without success. As long as we still see women as kitchen girls, gender-based violence will continue. And this is very true, and it's very sad. And I see another gentleman here, and I would love to take this man's comment, and that is Mr. James Chikwambani, who is a man in media space. He says, the reality is that we also have women who protect abusive male relatives. We need to stand together and fight this demon. True, sometimes we protect a monster, and the next thing, the monster will come even against you. And then Rosemary also saying, parents also contribute immensely to violence, because instead of condemning it when it happens, you find a parent saying, that's how men are. If only we can stand at home if only we can start at home for solutions. Very true. And I appreciate this conversation. I see Sbusiso also is a gentleman who says, Pastor Sbusiso saying, thank you, Pastor Strike. We need such platforms for us to raise better fathers of tomorrow. Thanks. Pastor Joeling saying, thanks, Prof. Prof. Ndala, very powerful. Thank you so very much. Doc, these are the comments from some of our participants on Facebook, which, you know, it brings, and I feel platforms like this, Doc, are very necessary because they help us, you know, debate. They help us deal with these things. And like I said, I as a pastor, honestly, without fear of contradiction, I feel some of the things, there is no political will. And because of that, there is serious, if I may say, there's an encouragement in a way of this violence against women. Because again, in political circles, I've seen women being deployed where we know they will fail, just to make sure that they fail. Sometimes deployed where we know we will then come back and demand them to do things that are against policies. You know, so these are things that I think they are deep rooted and they must be dealt with. As a democratic country, I think I am free to say these things, and we must face it head on and begin to deal with it and correct it. You said something very important, that there is a Muslim school where they practice their religion, and they don't forbid anybody to practice theirs. They say, you go to your corner, practice your religion. But I don't know what happened with our government, to an extent that, you know, praying, it is said to be suppressing other religions. No, why? Why should we suppress any other religion? People must, we're freedom of religion, but we're talking about people's conscience here. People must feel, look, there's something that guides me, my conscience, so that at the end of the day, I'm not just a loose cannon. Doc, what do you have to say with what Prof. Ndala has said, and even these comments? You know, there's a lot that I've put before you, but I know there are those things that you feel you must respond on.
Look, I like there was a comment about feminism. The funny part of it is that I have read the way people interpret feminism is not what feminism is. I have read some of their theories. All that is doing is just to affirm a woman that you have a potential. So, but now we take it to another level. It affirms women. If we look at that subject, it affirms women to say you are a human being. You have the potential to do whatever that God has deposited in you. Because all of us have a potential. God has deposited that ability in each and every one of us.
True.
Now, what Prof have said is important, that in 1956, women made an impact. Are we still, you know, basking on the success of the past, or are our women today saying, as much as we are remembering the 1956 women, this is what we are going to do as well as women, and make an impact as well. Make history. We must not pass on the previous history. You see, our country is going backward because you still talk about the freedom, the people who are arrested. It's fine. They were arrested, they were detained. But we are now here. What is it that we are doing currently? History is continuous. It's not stagnant. So we must be able also to move forward and make sure that we make an impact. Our women must stand up, make an impact today. When you remember 1956, you must say, yes, this happened in 1956. Today we are celebrating another woman here. She has done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is time that we release our potential. Our women release the potential in them. They can do it. They must not bask in the glory of the past. They must start taking action. Now, Prof also spoke something very interesting about training children.
Mm.
The way we train our kids. Like, for instance, I don't know about you, Pastor Strike. When I was growing up, I was brought up to be told that I'm a man, I must not cry.
Yes,
I'm a human being.
me too. I was told that. Mm.
I'm a human being. So that may make you a person who, it breeds violence because
Yes.
you can't express your feelings.
Expresses your emotions.
So, yeah, you bottle your emotions. So it is time that we allow our kids also to cry. Bring them up equally to show them we are all equal. If a lady can cry, you can also cry. You know? So this is very, very important. And again, Prof emphasized the upbringing of a child between age 0 and 7. That is a crucial age. Your life will be controlled by the information stored in your subconscious mind from that particular age. It is so important that we are careful in terms of negativism when we talk to kids at that particular age. The way we bring them up, let us put them with positivism and make sure that they look at things in a positive way. I once attended one of our African brothers. It was a naming ceremony of a child. I attended. I liked what I saw there. They whisper in the child's ear that you have a potential. You are going to be great. This is what you are going to do, you know? And they don't say anything negative. And so this is what is important, that when we bring up our kids, we must, at that particular age, let's try to be as positive as we can.
Yes.
In spite of the negative word, we show them that this is negative, but out of this negative, it teaches you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that you can be positive. Because we cannot have life without negatives. So, but we show them both the negative, but we emphasize the positive. That upbringing is very, very important. And then the development of scars, the inner scars that we develop inside the kids. I think, again, as men, we must also talk to these things. Even if you don't want to marry a woman, don't deny your own child. You are creating scars in that particular child.
Yes.
I'm challenging men that even if you don't love that woman, it was a mistake. I don't know why do you call it a mistake? Why did you sleep with her? Now, if you take that child is a mistake, please take care of the child. The child is innocent, because these are some of the monsters that we are creating. Yes. A child grows up being bitter because the mother is bitter that the father denied the child, and then the bitterness goes to the child, and the child is bitter that the father denied him. You see, these are the problems that we are creating as society. So the challenge that I have for every man, if you have denied your child, you must go back and apologize, so that, you know, we have a healthy society. That is very, very important, you know, that we do these things. Now, Bob again said something very, very important, that men are muscular, women are not. It is what we call diversity. And in universities today, we teach diversity management. To say we are diverse, we cannot be the same. So therefore, it is important to embrace diversity. It does not mean because I'm muscular, so therefore I'm better than a woman and a woman must be suppressed. And this is where now we even make a mistake. Psychology 1, it teaches you a division of labor, that it is labor is divided in line with traits that we possess as men and women. Now, today we are even forcing women to work underground. That's degrading women. It does not mean because we are equal, now we must subject women to go and work underground in the mine. You know, that's wrong. That's abuse. That's high abuse. So therefore, these differences, all that they mean is that we must appreciate each other. All that they show that we need each other in life. You need to compliment me, I need to compliment you. That's simply what it means. It does not mean now we have to compete, and then so that I can show you that I can lift up a stone even if I'm a woman. No, you don't have to do that. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. You know, so this is very, very important. And then the Prof said something that is very, very important in terms of personality disorders that we have. Those things are called, it's a learned behavior that we learn from the environment. Yeah, society, communities teach us these things. So it is important that psychiatrists today, they understand what they're supposed to do, and clinical psychologists to say, you have learned this particular behavior. It is important that you unlearn the behavior. Anything that is learned can be unlearned.
Could be unlearned, yeah.
So it is very important that to say, you don't just come and say, today, if you say somebody has a personality disorder, it means now we are embracing that. It's okay, you can live like that. It's so wrong. It is the behavior that you have learned from the environment. Unlearn that behavior. You have a potential to unlearn it. It is not going to be easy, but through determination, you can unlearn that particular behavior.
Sure.
So, and then the other thing, this thing, blaming victims, that, you know, people will be saying, you were raped because you're wearing a miniskirt, you know, and so therefore the victim must feel guilty. And then instead of standing up to say, okay, I was wearing a miniskirt, it might have provoked you, but you don't have any right to rape me, you know. So this blaming thing, it is the one, instead of, you know, dealing with problem and say, how do we solve this problem? We get into the blaming mode. You have said something very powerful, Pastor, about politicians. Politicians, I respect them, I love them, but they like rhetoric.
Yes.
You know, they like to say things for the sake of saying them.
Of saying it.
So it is very, very important that, you know, we don't say things for the purpose of, you know, pleasing people so that I can be famous. People must like me, and it doesn't come from the bottom of my heart. So it is very, very important. And the psychopaths that the professor spoke about, that, you know, I know in terms of, we have a serious challenge in terms of Christianity. You and I, Pastor, you know that we will be saying, God says, God hates divorce, so you must not divorce this man, you know, and then you must pray, and the man will become okay. And I don't know.
Somebody dies.
You know, a psychopath, you will come okay as long as he's in a psychologist, and instead of a woman living there. I mean, how is she going to pray when she's depressed?
Yeah,
you know,
when she's being beaten.
She's been beaten. You know, this man is sick. You know, he doesn't deserve to have any woman.
Yes.
So therefore, these are some of the things that, you know, we need to deal with them head on and be honest to these things, to say wrong is wrong.
Wrong is wrong.
I have not read anywhere in the Bible where it says a man, a psychopath, was forced upon a woman. Nowhere. So it is very, very important that, you know, we deal with these things, and then we make sure that we have a healthy society.
Yeah. You know, Doc, that's very important. And I'm looking at, because the conversation, it's only that I've opened it to take even other topics, but the conversation was the conversation men to men, where I was bringing men together and debate issues. And I believe I would have to invite you where we also deal with men, and the conversation, it be locked up for men, and we deal with each other, because honestly, it's statistics. It's something else. Anybody can comment anyhow until it's your daughter, until it's your wife. You know, that's one thing that I'm saying. Gentlemen, I don't like us to be casual about this thing. It's a reality. We know for a fact that there are also women that abuse men. It's a fact. But the percentage is very low. And some of these women who abuse men, some of them, they've been trained, and they've been trained by men. They are victims of abuse. And now when they are on top, now they deal with us ruthlessly. But the scourge that we're dealing with, it's too much. I mean, how do we explain a young girl going to a post office for service, the next thing raped and killed? How do we begin to explain that? How do we explain where a 9-year-old it's raped and killed? I mean, how do
Pastor, I understand a 9-year-old. How do you explain a baby? A baby. That man is crazy.
I mean, and we say, hey, it's because of their dressing. How does a baby dresses? How does so honestly, I think we really need to deal with this thing. And I think when Prof. Ndala says we also, as women, also need to stand, I think that the women need to be helped to stand, and they must do something about legislature. Something must be done. I was saying out of anger, when we talk of the death sentence, if a death sentence is put on people who violate, rape, kill women, and because our argument is, how do we kill? No, it's about deterrent. Somebody knowing that if I do this, I will die. The perpetrators don't want to die, because what is happening now, like the guy whom you said came out, killed 8 women, just like that. One thing that I've discovered in the process when interviewing, I've realized that even our correctional centers, they are not fully equipped. We need social workers who will help correct these people. But the percentage of the social workers working in correctional centers, it's crazy. It does not in any way. So people come out not being corrected. They come out, some of them, they come out having learned even new skills of violating, of killing, of doing all sorts of things. Because even they are so clustered, they are so angry. And, I go back then when you are arrested, you will be subjected to hard labor. You'll be working. This time, there's no working. This time it's about eating, watching television, and all that. So it's a holiday. I think something needs to be looked at. And I know when we talk like this, people say, no, you've never been to prison. You don't understand. But look, people come out not corrected, and they go back and do. In our province, Doc, very heartbreaking. A poor young girl in an accommodation, because she was in a technical or in an FET. A young man broke in, raped her, stabbed her, and killed her. And guess what? When we checked, that man was a parolee. So how does somebody get a parole and they are just like that? They are not corrected whatsoever.
If prison pastor is correcting this man, you remind me of an incident of a lady that we were going to church together. A young boy was released on parole from prison for killing a person. The same night he was released, he slept in this lady's house. The same night, this boy raped that lady, stabbed her to death. The same night he was released.
The same night. So honestly, that's why we don't advocate for people to take the law into their hands. It's not right, because it's not proof that this person is the perpetrator. But that's what frustrates communities, because these things are happening, and it's like our justice system protects the perpetrators the perpetrators more than the victims. Doc, I mean, we've been here. We're supposed to be done some 8:30, but we here. I must release you because you've got work to do also tomorrow. But allow me to take these two. I have this doctor in social work and also this nurse. Let's just hear what they have to say, and then get our comments, and then release you. But I would love to appreciate you, all our friends on Facebook. I see you still there. I see your comments, all of you listening on Bold Moves Radio, and all of you on YouTube. We're talking about things that we all must do something. We all must rise. I must be honest. I sit here, I talk like this. I believe in leadership. I believe in our politicians. not just believe, just today, every Thursday, I pray for our political leaders. I wake up 4 o'clock. We pray for our political leaders. We want God to help them. But we are saying, again, we must understand that we have these leaders to serve, not only to be served or celebrated, but to serve. And sometimes it's important, even as we pray for them, even as we debate about issues, that we do not keep silent about things that are going wrong and things that need to be dealt with, things that needs to be corrected. And like, for an example, the issue of our pool of academics. These people, God graced them with brains. They study, they research, they are passionate about it. But what are we doing about their researches? Can we really make sure that we're smart enough to employ the services of our researchers and their hard work and make sure that we bring about solutions? And ladies and gentlemen, it is the conversation, and we are with Dr. Alex Molefe, and let us hear what Dr. Manganyi has to say.
I'm Dr. Manganyi, PhD in social work. Let me start this way. One author once wrote, I am not in the business of accepting things I cannot change, but a business of changing things that I cannot accept. Killing of women is one thing that as a country and as people, we should not accept. Women are killed every day. Women are raped every day. Women are stabbed, abused, and murdered every day. Why? Because they are women? Because they are helpless and defenseless? Because they are easy targets, punchbacks, and vulnerable? Is there anything that women can do to change their fortunes? No, they can't do anything. Because they are not killing themselves. Those that are killing them are the ones that needs to change. Until men change, women are not safe. Until men make up their mind about killing women, women will never be safe. Thus, building shelters for women who are battered by their husbands, their boyfriends, an answer. Building of shelters is recommendable, but not an answer. Developing policies that speaks against the abuse and killing of women is a good thing, but not an answer. We need to build a society that values women. We need to build a society that respects women. We need to build a non-violent society. Today, in our communities, the abuse, the violence against women is acceptable, tolerated, and justified. When a woman is killed, we make a noise in a day or two, in a week or so later. We are back into our old self. Women die in the hands of their lovers, their husbands. They die in the hands of the people they love and trust. This needs to change. We need to change this. This we should not accept as people, as society, and as community. Funny enough, this change should be orchestrated from the family, the way we raise our children, the way our communities respond to violence. These are the cornerstones. That's where everything else should be engineered and started. Let all be in the business to change things we cannot accept. Killing of women is one of those. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Dr. Manganyi. And I would love to also get Mama Silisho and put forward her comment or her contribution as we journey on. This is the conversation with Dr. Alex Molefe.
Riperile Pastor Strike, thank you very much for inviting Dr. Molefe to come and brainstorm and discuss this much needed topic, gender-based violence. My name is Manana Silisho Halapitori. I thank God that we had the month of August where we were discussing issues relating to celebrating women. But unfortunately, is during this month that we saw a lot of bad things happening, a lot of bitter things. We had stories at universities of beautiful women being killed, abused, and a whole lot of things. Then we stop and say, why, Lord? Why is this happening? When we look at what is happening today, I want to believe that we must go to the drawing board. Yes, the women in 1956 have marched to the Union Building. Partially, they've won the race, but not all the race is won. We need to look into the mind of men, our males, our men, our husbands, our brothers, our uncles should go back to the drawing board and understand who they are, why they are created, what makes them happy, what makes them sad. I'm now talking emotional intelligence. The minute somebody understands who they are, why they are alive, they will learn to understand and acknowledge the next person, their sister, their wives, their spouses. Men are full of ego. Men are full of pride. Men believe they are the strongest physically. Yes, it's true, but men should rectify the ratio of saying, I'm the one above the woman. If the mind of the men can come to acknowledge the fear of God, they will learn to acknowledge the woman. Biblically, we say to repent. When I started to plan to get married, I wrote a letter to God, and that is more than 40 years ago. I said, Lord, I think I'm ready to marry, to be noticed, but send me a man. Number one, I had listed six things. Number one, I said, I want a man who fears the Lord. Because I knew that if it's a man who fears the Lord, that man will know that I, as his wife, am made in the image of God. So he will acknowledge me, he will love me. Men who don't fear the Lord live in competition. They live in the mentality of saying, I will crush the woman, I will suppress the woman, I will bring her down. This woman who's rising and shining, I will show her that munakola penkimang, and that's where the abuse comes. Sexual violence, emotional violence, psychological abuse, spiritual oppression, cultural violence and abuse, verbal abuse, and financial abuse. Today we thank God that is the men who discuss this topic. These are men that are set aside by God to say, what can we do to acknowledge the woman? What can we do to respect the woman? I really salute the men who are brainstorming and discussing this violence. What can we do as a way forward? I believe if we go back to the drawing board, to the places of learning, the places of influence, the family. In the family, our boy children need to be socialized that they need to love and respect the woman. How? The fathers in the house should take the lead and show respect. Because our children won't just listen to what we tell them, but they will see and observe how we treat the mothers, how you treat that neighbor, how you treat your wife, your son. My dear man, my dear father, my dear brother is watching you. I know of a family where a father murdered the wife. Fast forwarding, the very son married and murdered the wife. So what we do as we handle our women in the family, our children, our sons are watching. At school, the place of learning, we should make that platform to teach the boy children that yes, physically they are strong, but even the girl children, they are strong in a certain aspect. The church, that is a good platform to mentor and teach our children. The media, it's a good platform because our young children have got access to social media and many platforms of media. this is where we need to portray that superiority as a man is there, but we need to look into supporting our women. The cultural myth that say wansati ishkoroplapi should die, should come to an end. When I got married, I was Miss Shishabele. I changed my surname to being Mrs. Silisho. I now belong to the Silisho family. When I rise and shine, it's the Silisho family that is shining. So the cultural myth yakushanisa wansati hiku ile bukatini must come to an end, because when we shine kwale bukatini vashina nabona. So our dear men, we pray that violence shall stop, verbal abuse shall stop. We should support our women, support and sustain their vision. One day these two shall pass. Thank you for giving me these few minutes. I salute you, Pastor Strike Manganyi, for the work that you are doing. One day your reward shall come as you educate the nation. God bless and salute.
Okay, thank you so very much, all our contributors. Doc, like I said, now I just want to sit back and give you this time to comment about all that our contributors have shared. Just unmute your mic and give us your last comments on this program, and then we will release you. Thanks,
Yes,
Doc.
Pastor. Oh, it is spot on. It is important that we must not, men must not be egocentric and, look inwardly. And there is no need really for, what I can add on is that there is no need for competition. Life is to be enjoyed, and to enjoy life, it means you must respect each other. We must, elevate one another. There is nothing satisfying like, when you see somebody being successful, being a contributor in that person's life. Very, very important. So for me, it is important to see my wife, to see my daughter, to see any woman that in the church and at university, seeing them growing and becoming important people in society. There is nothing satisfying when you are walking around town and somebody say, "Can you still remember me? I was your student, and this is what you did in my life." This is very, very important for me. So therefore, there is if we can build that kind of society, then we are going somewhere as people. I think the church must play a major role. Pastor, I think as a church, we have solutions to the problems of the world. If we tackle them head on, and we try to be relevant for our times and make sure that as a church, we've got programs that are going to, here is also the challenge for the church, that we must have programs that are going to empower our women and then make sure that the society becomes successful. That is very, very important, because sometimes a church take a backseat and then we don't do anything. So it is important that as a church, we play a major role. It is time that as churches, we must have schools. It is time that as churches, we must have universities.
Yes.
And we empower our women, because if we lead, remember the Bible says we will be the head but not the tail.
Yes.
So as a church, we must lead. We must take a lead in all these things. So therefore, for me, it's important that we work very hard and make sure that society succeeds.
Yes.
So and we forget this thing of being. Look, Pastor. Sometimes I wonder when I look at Abraham. They say when he was in Egypt, he came in and said Sarah is his
sister.
But the Pharaoh saw him playing with his wife and said, "Oh, nobody can play with a sister like this." So it shows you that there was harmony.
Yes.
He didn't say I'm a man, I don't play with a woman,
Yes.
So it is very, very important that we treat women well, and then as men we make sure, and as a church we make an impact.
Very true.
Yeah.
Doc, I just want to take this time and say thank you so very much for your contribution tonight. It has been a marathon, and I just want to take this time also appreciate all the contributors. That's Dr. Manganyi, Professor Ndala, and then our MEC for Social Development, Menka Karing, and then Mama Slisho. And to you all, our friends on Facebook, and also you on YouTube, and even our friends here on Zoom. I just want to appreciate you all, and our friends on Bold Moves Radio. And I would love to say this to all men that are responsible men, that are loving men, that are protecting men, that are great fathers, that are great husbands. We acknowledge you are there, and we appreciate you, and we applaud you for doing that which is good and right. It's true that sometimes when we communicate, it's like all men are just horrible men. It's not true. We know there are great men out there. We know there are responsible men out there. There are men who are taking care of their wives. We know also, I personally even know a man who married his wife with 2 children, with 2 children and big children, and he did not have a child. And he took care of those girls like his own. I know there are men who are able to love, who are able to respect their wives, who are able to release their wives to be what God has meant for them to be. And you men, we applaud you for the good thing that you are doing, and would love to encourage you to go beyond your family, in your workplace, in your community, because when good people do not extend a helping hand, when good people do not do something, then bad people prevail and they dominate. We put together this program not because we are perfect men. No, we did this program because we feel we must contribute in finding solutions. We must create this platform so that we are able to deal with issues that are burning issues, the issues that are very much concerning. I'm a father of boys. I've got 3 boys, and it is my desire to see my boys taking care of their wives, taking care of their children, and becoming responsible fathers. On a lighter note, a joke here. I always call my wife Love. And when my son and his wife are here, one day I called my wife, I said, Love, and she said, hello. I said, no, my daughter, I'm calling you mom, because that's how my son now calls his wife. He grew up hearing me saying love to my wife, and that's how he calls his wife. And she confused me for her husband. And I must say, monkey see, monkey do. So please, gentlemen, let us know that our children will do what we do before them. And unfortunately, even those things that they've never seen. I had dreadlocks very early when dreadlocks were not fashionable. Guess what? Not if I was a boy, but my sons, I'm telling you, they have dreadlocks, all of them, except for the little one. And when I look at them, I look at them with grace. I don't say to them, you boys, look at your hair. I'm a pastor. What will people say? No, I know where it comes from. So I want to say to gentlemen, are we uprooting those seeds that we've sown in secret? Remember, what you do as a man, it may be in secret, but it's not in secret. It's generational. It will go to generations to come. Like Doc just said about Abraham, saying about his wife, she is my sister. Isaac was not born yet. Guess what? When Isaac was born, same thing. He said about his wife, she is my sister. So I'm saying, gentlemen, let us continue being what God has meant for us to be sources, to be sustainers, to be protectors. to sustain that which God has given to our care, and to make sure that our wives, they become better people. I always say to my wife, maybe you'll be a better woman if you did not marry me. So I'll release you to be the best that God has meant for you to be. That is why when God laid in my heart to release even the ministry into her hands, to be a senior pastor of a church that is so big, I said, Lord, I release it into her hands. I believe in the gift that she is to the body. I believe in her capabilities even as a pastor. Gentlemen, enjoy and appreciate to see your wife doing better, to see your wife soaring the sky, becoming a better woman. And God will bless you for that, and you live a very peaceful life. I don't want the day I die and my wife dies even though she's still alive, because she does not know what to do, where to start. Let us empower our wives and let us release them to be what God has meant for them to be. It's only men who are busy trying to kill their wives, who thinks if they empower their wives will kill them. It's only men who are contemplating leaving their wives, who thinks if I empower my woman, she will leave me. Family, brothers, let us build strong families. To all our sisters listening to this program, we are committed to trying to find solutions, even as men. And we will take this forward with Dr. Molefe. We're not stopping here, but we'll continue to see. And please, if you need help, if you need us to know something, because there are things that we don't understand, there are things that you can teach us, you are welcome to do so. And ladies and gentlemen, this was the conversation with Dr. Molefe and Pastor Strike. Doc, I want to say thank you very much for your time. I think I took 2 hours of your time, Schoon, and I really appreciate that you could stay with us and you could share with us this valuable information. And may God bless you. And your 2-3 ways of bye-bye to our audience.
No, thank you very much, Pastor. May God richly bless you with this nice program, and let it reach out to the hearts of our people. God bless you.
Thank you so very much, Doc. A blessed night to you. And to all our friends on Zoom, thank you so very much. I see your comments, even as I release Doc. Doc, you are released. Let me just read these comments and do justice. I see Cecilia Rato here saying, grooming young girls for marriage and trying to control their lives also plays a role in creating harmful spaces for these girls when they are older. And then I see here Musa, is it Musa Rilepile was saying, I have a question. What is the correct scope of dealing with rapists and murderers, considering that we are Christians? Considering that we are Christians, we as Christians are called to love. However, these are heinous crimes. We are called to love, but God is a God of justice. He does not, and also hate and condemning evil is 2 different things. And we don't hate people, we hate the acts. We love the person because we know the person can repent, but we hate the murderer in the person. Let's not confuse that. I don't love murderers who murder women just like that, and who murder. This comes home when when it happens to you. I've been robbed at gunpoint several times, and I remember at one time I looked at this boy and I said, but that boy is not that bad, because while they entered our room, he said, when they wanted to search under the mattress, he said to my wife, Mama, do you have something to cover yourself? And I said, this boy, he is a robber today, but there is something deep in him. He has got a respect of his mother. I say good. And I felt pity for him, because I could tell this is a victim of circumstances. But I must be honest, we don't love murderers, we don't love thieves. We love people, but again, with love, punishment must be administered with no reservation. That is one thing for sure. What is the correct measure of punishment while still maintaining? Sorry, it got cut. What is the correct measure of punishment while still maintaining love thy neighbor as God has called us to do so? I don't know where we're referring to, but when we talk about people who do all sorts of things, look, we're not talking love there. We're talking about who exactly do we love? Do we love the victim or do we love the perpetrator? If we ask the question, what love are we talking about here? Do we have to love? Because that's what I'm seeing today. We are so gracious to perpetrators and so harsh to victims, and we even tell them, you looked for it, you dressed, you did, which is very wrong. Greetings. I have a question. What kind of rehabilitation process do prisoners go through if they will be released and commit extreme heinous crimes again? Like I said, having to interview a social worker in correctional services, there's not enough social workers. And of course, but I must acknowledge our government, they are doing their best to try and correct. And there are different trainings that goes in so that somebody can see how to work for themselves. But you know what? This thing is a hard thing. And you cannot just change their heart by training them how to weld or to do this and that. There must be a change of heart. Gentlemen, that's it. I will not want to engage Doc. He has done enough for the day. Thank you so very much. That was the conversation with Dr. Molefe and Pastor Strike. Thank you, and God bless you, and have a great and an awesome evening. And remember, on Saturday, I have Streams of Life, and even there's something that I know is going to be very, very empowering. Thank you so very much, family. And my technician, Desmond, thank you so very much. My executive producer, Pastor Joylene, that's my wife. Thank you so very much. And friends,